Let's get the obvious out of the way. This is the best looking Batman movie to date. The dark, gritty landscape that director Matt Reeves and cinematographer Greg Fraser paint throughout the movie set the tone for this unique take on the Caped Crusader. So without further ado, let's explore why the Batman is a masterpiece. From the title card that you just saw, you would think that I'm not a fan of action movies. On the contrary, I love action movies, especially when the action is framed in a way that relates to the story and characters. What I'm trying to get at is that while the action in this movie is exciting and full of fan service moments, it's thankfully not the focus of the story. The focus being Batman's pursuit of the Riddler. I loved Matt Reeves' decision to centre the plot on Batman. While this sounds obvious for a Batman movie, all of the previous iterations of the character always struck a balance between Bruce Wayne and Batman. In this movie, however, Robert Pattinson is in costume as the Caped Crusader for the majority of the movie's runtime. This bold, creative choice from Reeves puts you in the perspective of Batman as the world's greatest detective, with the story making you feel like an active participant in solving the riddles in question. The movie also does a great job of making the riddles tense and intriguing, especially the one involving Gil Colin, while also unravelling the various layers of corruption in Gotham. I loved how the corruption that Batman uncovers is not confined to just the city's criminals, but also its public forces, namely the police force and politicians. The riddles that Batman solves confronts the character with unsettling truths about Gotham, that evil can exist in many forms, and that nothing is ever truly black and white. Despite the movie focusing on the detective element of the title character, it would be a crime worthy of being locked up in Arkham if I didn't discuss how awesome the action is. During the movie's development, Matt Reeves spoke about how he wanted to depart from the quick-cutting action that became a staple of Christopher Nolan's Batman trilogy in favour of a scaled-back approach. And this style of filmmaking is very much apparent when watching the movie. The first time we're introduced to Batman is a perfect showcase of this action. Reeves and Greg Fraser make a point of letting the camera linger when we see Batman landing multiple punches to a criminal in clown makeup.
I'm vengeance.
It allows the audience to appreciate the choreography on display as the action harkens back to a time when set pieces involved minimal cuts and wide angles. That's not to say that the action does not utilise quick cuts, as shown in the standout car chase between Batman and Penguin. Can I just mention how epic the introduction of the Batmobile is, as it's the culmination of terrific cinematography, editing and sound design. The cuts in this scene are utilised effectively by Reeves and editors William Hoy and Tyler Nelson. For instance, the scene will often cut to a POV shot of the Batmobile, as Greg Fraser and the production team were able to mount cameras onto the side of the car. The scene is a great example of cutting the action for maximum emotional impact, as it allows the audience to feel like they are part of the experience. The action, while not dominating proceedings in the movie, still offers excitement and blockbuster thrills that audiences demand nowadays, while departing from the fast-paced action that often dominates today's movies. The story breaks down Batman's moral code in a way that previous filmmakers of this long-standing franchise have not tackled to this extent. Matt Reeves zeroes in on the theme of vengeance as we see Batman using this philosophy to strike fear into the criminals he encounters. As the plot unfolds, Batman realises that the very ideal he believes will bring down crime in Gotham is actually having the opposite effect. This concept was refreshing to see in a Batman movie, as we're so accustomed to seeing criminals being terrified at the mention of Batman, let alone his physical presence. And so, Matt Reeves poses a legitimate question of whether Batman's vigilante activities are enough to rid Gotham of the crime that it endures so regularly. This is shown in the funeral scene when Mayor-elect Bella Real speaks to Bruce about the lack of philanthropic work that is contributed to Gotham.
Your family has a history of philanthropy, but as far as I can tell, you're not doing anything.
The script puts forward the notion that Bruce Wayne is as important of an individual in tackling Gotham's criminal element as Batman. As per the movie's epilogue, Batman realises that he needs to inspire Gotham with hope if any change is to take effect in the city. Challenging the consequences of Batman's vigilantism is honestly something that I've not seen before in a live-action Batman movie. Batman's character arc, along with the revelation of Thomas Wayne's troubled past, forces us to realise that good, honest people are never truly incorruptible, and that every person, even those with strong moral compasses, are capable of wrongdoing under the right circumstances. What I love most about the cinematography from one of my favourite DPs at the moment, in Greg Fraser, is how the visuals of the movie are not just eye candy. Sure, the movie has moments of visual wonder, such as Gotham Square, an obvious nod to New York's Times Square. But Fraser's use of lighting, or lack of should I say, really informs the viewer of how frightening Gotham is as a city. How Fraser and the production team play with lighting and shadows gives the city a mysterious quality, and that as a viewer, you'd never know what's lurking around the corner. The opening scene showcases this beautifully as we see various criminals going around the city on Halloween night. The great thing about this scene is that the criminals are never certain that they can walk through the city without the fear of encountering Batman. Matt Reeves and Greg Fraser amplify this idea by having the criminals stay into dark alleyways and doorways, which lets us know from the get-go that Batman can confront criminals anywhere, anytime. The fear that Batman strikes into criminals also extends to Gotham's public servants. The opening scene in which we see Gotham Mayor Don Mitchell Jr. watching the election debate on TV might be the best example of this. What starts out as an innocent scene of a mayor watching the election debate quickly descends into terror as we see a dark figure lurking behind the mayor. Reeves and Fraser could have easily set the scene in day or made use of additional lighting, but in doing so it would have removed the terror and fear that the Riddler poses. The use of darkness and shadows that the Riddler finds himself in the mayor's apartment creates an almost mythic presence for the character and only makes the villain even more of a threatening figure. In short, Gotham is a living, breathing character in the movie thanks to a combination of Matt Reeves' singular vision and Greg Fraser's exquisite cinematography. There are so many elements that I adore about this movie that I haven't mentioned that, in all honesty, would probably take up another video essay. From the gripping story and script to the terrific acting across the board, including the Penguin played by Colin Farrell, who completely disappears into the role. Nonetheless, I feel the elements that I have covered in this video sufficiently explain my love and appreciation for the Batman. The detective noir plot, epic set pieces, and deconstructing Batman's morals, along with the terrific depiction of Gotham, all result in a Batman movie that, in my opinion, will stand the test of time. So I'll now hand it over to you, as I want to find out your thoughts on the Batman, and do you think this is the best Batman movie to date, as I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comment section below. Thank you guys for watching, and as always, I'll see you in the next one.